One More Day is well renowned as the worst, dumbest thing to ever come out of Spider-Man. One More Day is a Spider-Man comic book that has the incredible distinction of being the worst Spider-Man thing ever officially produced. Yes, even worse than Spider-Man 3. Yes, even worse than those stupidly overrated and shitty Spider-Man PS4 games. One More Day is a baffling, stupid mess where everyone makes big, dumb decisions and Peter Parker is completely and utterly moronic. Spider-Man One More Day is so bad that it has a 43% like ratio on Google. Do you know how easy it is to get something at over 70% on Google? Everyone likes everything when they Google. But it's been a long while since I've even thought about this comic book. It came out back in 2007, and all I remember thinking about it was how notoriously stupid it was. So let's reread it together. Then we can all be stupid. To give the comic some credit, the art's very good. The cover art looks really well done. I like this little montage of moments throughout Spider-Man and Mary Jane's life, like when Peter has a horrible epileptic episode on a tandem bicycle, or perhaps when they get married. But my favorite is maybe when Peter has to fuck an old fat woman because he's given the old boy face, and that's the look of a man who has to fuck an old fat woman. I remember that. That was Spider-Man number issue 76 when they were trying to see what kind of character he would be. Apparently him fucking old fat women wasn't really playing in the market. What would you do if the dearest person in your life, the one to whom you owe your entire world, was near death in a hospital bed, the victim of a bullet aimed at your heart, but that pierced hers instead? Bold to assume the dearest person in my life is a her. God bless you, Danny DeVito. What would you do if you had the power to save her, but at a price that may be more than you can bear to pay? What would you do if you were Spider-Man and you only had one more day? The back cover is going really hard into the middle school notebook poetry. Let me see if I can add some lines. I'll make this up on the spot. What would you do if Spider-Man bought a hot dog and when he was finished, he filled his toilet with a log? What would you do if your cable went out and when you opened the window, Batman called you fat? I'm not very good at this. This is a 4-volume series. Here's the cover of the first volume, and I can't tell if Spider-Man's look of terror is from the fact that Aunt May might be dead, Mary Jane might be dead, or he knows he only has one more day in his delectable full bondage web outfit. I mean, look it. It's constricting all the places you want, but still leaving room to the erogenous zones for someone else to get their busy hands dirty. The book tries to open with this really serious, poetic consultation of Peter spilling his heart that he fucked up, but it sounds like an FM radio DJ trying to get couples out there to fuck in the backseat of their car. Tune your ear to the frequency of despair and cross-reference by the longitude and latitude of a heart in agony. Listen. This is KML-FM, getting you the biggest boner in the back seat of your Ford Bronco. So Kingpin, fat, bald, fatty, fuck, fat, bald, fat guy, big criminal guy, but mostly bald and fat, is a big enemy of Spider-Man, and he sent an assassin to shoot him with a bullet. But Spider-Man, being fucking Spider-Man, decided to dodge the bullet because who the fuck thinks that just shooting Spider-Man with a bullet would work? He dodges him. Anyway, he dodged the bullet and Aunt May got shot by it instead. And she is now in the ICU of a random hospital. But this takes place during Civil War, which is where all the superheroes are wanted by the police and they're fighting with each other. So Peter Parker's a vigilante running away from the law, and he checks Aunt May into a hospital under a fake name. Peter Parker probably had really great insurance because he got Aunt May hooked up to the pudding suction device almost immediately. I mean, look at her. Careful, Aunt May, save some tapioca for the rest of the residents. The emergency room is maxed out and we've all had to pull double shifts. Anyway, I'm Dr. Fine. This is my partner, Dr. Good, and my assistant, Dr. Great. So the doctor, in the most overt healthcare system fucked up metaphor I've ever seen, tells Peter that, oh, you don't have enough money for us to give a shit about Aunt May. She's gonna die because you didn't check her in with any insurance, you stupid new identity assuming fuck. So Peter goes, I have a brilliant idea. I'm gonna go ask someone with a bottomless checkbook for a bunch of money to pay for my aunt, who according to the doctor is already functionally brain dead and over the age of 88. But before he leaves, Dr. Asshole says, wait, I had an uncle that almost died in an accident, and Spider-Man saved him. And recently, Spider-Man has been unmasked, and his secret identity is all over the front page of the newspaper. So I know that you're Spider-Man, so I'll do what I can to help your aunt while you go and get money. What the fuck? So everyone knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. How in the shit did a fake name work? He's a goddamn international celebrity. Not a single human being in this hospital recognized him except for this one doctor who has all the kindness in his heart even though he's a dickhead. And no one wants to help Spider-Man. No one at all. Not a single human being wants to help Spider-Man. Even during the Civil War arc, where superheroes are fighting amongst themselves and some of them are like labeled as bad guys, not a single solitary fucking citizen of New York goddamn city can help Aunt May and Spider-Man raise enough money to get her a pot of flowers for her goddamn ICU room. We're off to a great start. I find it strange to swing all over the city without a mask, but what's the point? My face is all over the place, says the man who used a fake name to check into a hospital in the middle of a major metropolitan area. So Peter breaks into Tony Stark's big-ass technological tower, where Tony Stark is apparently nakedly bathing in red jello in the middle of his surveillance room. I've been thinking for like 20 minutes what the fuck Tony is doing at this big computer, naked, with a bunch of monitors open on what appear to be stocks. Either that or he's jacking off to crime reports. And Tony, seeing that there's an intruder in his tower, immediately suits up and rams into him at Mach fucking speed in his Iron Man suit. Thank fucking God it was a superhero that he hit. If it was a regular burglar or maybe some sort of human, he would have torn his spine in half. Good going committing murder, Tony. But no, please, your fucking Pentium 4 processor means a lot, and you don't want to lose that investment. So Spider-Man and Iron Man have this big aerial fuck around until they land on the ground, and Peter decides the best way to take down a fully armored, suited man with super high tech is to punch him. Punches him real hard. I know that Spider-Man has like moderate super strength and abilities, but he punches the guy. Oh, fuck. Spider-Man's entire shtick is that he is agile and cunning and a smartass. And his best plan to deal with Iron Man is first he webs up his repulsor beams. That's a smart start. And then he, instead of, I don't know, using his nimble strength to peel off the suit, maybe knowing a deactivation code that Mr. Stark would tell him, no, punch the Iron Man. Punch him good. Punch him. Fuck you. So after Peter introduces Tony to the exciting thrills of hardcore bondage, they have a discussion about how Aunt May is going to die in the charity ward of the hospital. And it's the worst thing ever. And the only way that'll make it better is if Tony gives Peter a whole shitload of money to give Aunt May the greatest medical care known to man. Keep in mind, there's no guarantee this will save her. Keep in mind, she's already a brain-dead vegetable. Keep in mind, Aunt May is like 80-something years old and lived a full, happy life. Nope. Pay my fucking bills, Tony. You owe it to me. Because I only revealed my secret identity because of you. And that's why this happened. That's why a relative of mine, a superhero, got hurt. And Iron Man lets him go because he respects Aunt May so much that he wants Peter to be with her when she dies. Even though, if he respected Peter enough, he could give him a bunch of money and maybe help Aunt May, because apparently that's Peter's logic. But nope, Iron Man, the man with millions of billions of dollars, the man who sneezes out prototype experimental weapons and doesn't give a shit, can't give Peter the money for May's medical bills, but he can let him be there when she dies a horrible old person death inside a hospital that they've arranged to take care of her because the doctor likes Peter. What the fuck is happening? So Peter goes back to the hospital and he goes, hey, Mary Jane, how's Aunt May doing? And she goes, believe it or not, Peter, it's a fucking miracle. She's still brain dead. I know, crazy. And unless we find insurance or the ability to pay, she'll be moved to the charity ward. Ooh. We need to be reminded of this like 50 times, because maybe you'll get the entire subtle message of this comic. So in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jarvis is the robot butler for Tony Stark, but in the comic books and some of the other spin-off stuff, he was a real butler that served the Stark family. And the real Jarvis in this comic book shows up to the hospital, and of course he has to have a moment where he says, "Oh God, I love Aunt May so much, and I can't believe that this would happen. If only there was money involved." And then, for some reason, he goes, "By the way, here's all the money you need for all of this horrible shit that happened." In other words, the whole fight between Iron Man was... He said no, but then he changed his... Okay. And then after all of this, the doctor says she's gonna die anyway. Jarvis gives them a check for $2 million to help Aunt May, and then the doctor says, she's gonna die anyway. And Peter goes, "I don't understand. How could this possibly happen?" And the doctor goes, "You remember how your aunt, who's over 80 years old and was shot in the chest, is brain dead? What do you mean you don't know how she's dying?" But Spider-Man's not gonna take that shit. And then Spider-Man gets spider-pissed and decides nothing will stop him from saving his aunt. Attention, true believer. If you should read but one comic this decade, this one's it. Because it's so bad, you will never want to read another comic book again. So the cover of the second issue is trying to scare you, the reader, into reading it as quick as possible because you have a hand in saving Aunt May's life. Look at her fucking death roll. God, she doesn't have much time. Either that or the nurse left the Hitachi personal massager on too strong. The good news is that thanks to Jarvis, Aunt May's being moved out of the charity ward and into a private room. The bad news is she's still dying. Who could have seen this coming? God, the art's so good. I feel so bad because so far this is written by a fucking idiot, but God, this art is amazing. I guess one of the shining beacons in this diarrhea mound is that the art is drawn by Joe Quesada, one of the legends of Marvel comic book art. So I get to look at something nice while I question who the fuck thought any of this was a good idea. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Spider-Man shows up to Doctor Strange because he knows that Doctor Strange's stupid magic's the only thing that's gonna help Aunt May. And Doctor Strange, for some reason, goes over his backstory again, I guess to fill in any readers who don't know who he is and what he does. And he basically says, "Hey, I was given these magic abilities and a purpose, and, you know, this shit's important, and you don't fuck around with it, Peter." So Spider-Man, who lifted up his mask to take a drag of a cheap cigarette, I guess, says that if you're saying that her death is part of some bigger plan, forget it. From what you say, the doctors told you, there's nothing anyone can... She's not going to die. She's not going to die. We all die, Peter. Yeah, but not like this. I didn't want Aunt May to die in a nice, relaxing brain coma, hopped up on morphine, surrounded by everyone she loves. I wanted her to be in her fucking condo by herself with her 88-year-old ass slipping in the bathtub and cracking her head on the tile because she was reaching down to get her medicated shampoo. Fuck! So Doctor Strange casts a spell that lets Spider-Man astral project so that way he can go and ask favors from literally everyone he knows, including Mr. Fantastic, who I think is getting the greatest blowjob on Earth from below the little frame there. But Spider-Man also makes a sense to point out that he asks people that hate him and want him dead, such as Doctor Doom, because he believes the urgency of "my aunt is dying" is enough to make them put aside their hatred for him and help him. I know that if I had a bitter enemy whose life I wanted to end, who constantly thwarted my plans and was my sworn nemesis, if he said, yo, time out, yeah, hey, stop, whoa, time out, my aunt's dying, I would just put a halt to everything. I'd put an arm around his shoulder and I'd say, "Look, man, it's okay to express your feelings. Where's my checkbook?" So Doctor Strange is like, "Yeah, Peter, no one can do anything. Your aunt is fucking dying. It's okay. She would have been a great-great-great-grandmother by this point if we lived in the 1920s. Anyway, let me get you something to drink. You want some Sunny D? Some apple juice? Maybe a Diet Coke?" I drank all the regular. After all, traveling with your mind is really stressful, and the only way to soothe it is the cool, refreshing taste of Mountain Dew Code Red. But that gives Spider-Man ample time to fuck with the hands of time and astral project himself all he wants rather than under Doctor Strange's guidance, because Doctor Strange is the stupidest man to ever live. He let in a guy who's super desperate, who he explicitly said he sensed him coming 6 blocks away and knew of his urgency, and he left him with the do-anything machine? Unattended? Spider-Man? Why? So Spider-Man astral projects himself back to the time when Aunt May was actually shot, and he tries to punch the guy who shot her in the brain, but he's a ghost, and that doesn't work. So Spider-Man swims through the fabric of time and fights a bunch of terrible Venom knockoffs until he tries to warn his past self that they're about to get sniped by an assassin. But in the past, it's revealed that Peter Parker actually reacted to the assassin and covered his wife, Mary Jane, and screamed to get down, and Aunt May just happened to get shot by the bullet. So Peter, Spider-Man, is mad that he didn't do everything perfectly? It's not like he was just eating fucking Cheez-Its and watching reruns of The Price is Right in the corner of the room and then Mary Jane's skull was splattered all over the wall. No, he tried his best, and even then, he was a fucking superhero with superhero reactions. If it were a regular person, everyone would have been dead. Spider-Man, you're too hard on yourself. You need to respect yourself, man. You need to give yourself a break. Come on. Positive thinking. So, ghost swimming Spider-Man through time accomplishes absolutely nothing except watching Aunt May get shot again before he's pulled out by Doctor Strange. So, Astral Spider-Man is wounded by the monsters that apparently are trying to protect Destiny from being changed. So, Doctor Strange's astral projection thrown into the past picks up Ghost Spider-Man and says, "We have to heal you, and the only way we can do it is at my laboratory." But at this moment in time, I was at my laboratory, so now let's go even further into the past to a moment where I wasn't at my laboratory, because if I see myself at my laboratory, then I might know what's going to happen in the future, and being a sorcerer, that could like fuck up the entire time continuum. And by laboratory, I meant Sanctum Sanctorum, or whatever the fuck he calls it. It's got a dumb name. Then there's a scene where Doctor Strange says, "Spider-Man, stop fucking around, I'll be right back," and he leaves to have a conversation with someone, and Spider-Man hears familiar voices, and he's like, "Oh no!" And then the comic literally flat out tells you to read another comic book to find out what happened. I'm gonna assume this is common practice in comic books. I don't know if they still do it. But that's fucking stupid. Imagine if you were watching a Marvel movie and you're watching Iron Man 2.5, The Legend of Tony's Toenails, and Tony Stark is in Iron Man and he's about to punch the Hulk and he goes, "And now for the reason I'm punching you now and we're enemies." And the movie cuts to black and it cuts back to them hanging out and there's a little subtitle that says, "Watch the Amazing Hulk's Incredible Sunday to find out what happened." Bullshit. So Doctor Strange says, "Hey, Peter, look, as a doctor, not a funky, weird doctor, but like an actual medical doctor as well, Aunt May's probably fucked. And we can't do anything about that. And people die. People die when they're killed, Peter. What you should do is stop being a pussy, stop being a fucking idiot, stop being a desperate little whiny teenage baby, and go to your aunt and say goodbye and say you love her and give her a big old kiss, because she can probably still hear you. In her comatose, stupid body, she's probably embarrassed as fuck that you're having a temper tantrum, that her brittle old skeleton is going to be dust in the wind soon. So quit your crying, get some ice cream so you can enjoy a nice treat as she fades into the ether realm. Go hang out with her, all right?" So Spider-Man goes out to have a nice cry in the rain and then chases a red bird that flies by him because he's got ADHD or something, I guess. And behind him is a girl that says that she can change destiny. Then we get to issue 3 featuring a cover art of Spider-Man's deadliest foes. A small red-headed girl, Cyclops with depression, and J. Jonah Jameson if he wanted to go to a fancy tea party. The little girl waxes philosophical with Spider-Man, saying that he's selfish and his pain is big, therefore it makes him feel big. And she's like, "Okay, it's time for me to leave them all behind." And she walks down an alleyway and Spider-Man says, "Hey, it's not safe to go down that alleyway." because it has a nerd in it. He walks up to the nerd and he says, hey, there was a girl here. The nerd is like, yeah, she's always around and then she disappears. And Spider-Man's like, well, what the fuck do you do? And the fat nerd goes, I work software engineering, computer testing, games, first-person shooters, superhero stuff. Fell into that after high school. And this fat nerd just kind of zones away and goes, do you know why guys like me get into games like that? Because there's something missing. We look around at a world where there used to be a chance of being a hero, of being important, and it's just not there the way it used to be. That's why I play video games. Because I look at the world and I go, ugh, what wasted potential, Earth? Fuck you, people. Now Mario, he's got it all figured out. Mario's on a different dimension. So then Spider-Man gets a ride from this weird old billionaire who says, hey, I have everything I could ever want, but there was this woman in high school that I wanted to fuck, and now she's a really tiny woman who lives in my champagne glass, and sometimes I drink the champagne because it's the only food that she has to live off of, and if I drink all of it, she'll die of dehydration and hunger, and it's very funny and amusing to me. Take that, tiny high school crush. No, I'm just kidding. He says that he's super rich, and the only thing he didn't have in life was a woman who really loved him. So eventually, Spider-Man gets walked down to this weird alley where this woman in a red dress is hanging out. So the woman in red is hanging out and is like a spirit demon lady, and she says, did you know that things in life change other things in life? What if you missed a cab? Or what if you got a cold? It could entirely alter destiny. What if, instead of being bitten by a radioactive spider, you just walked away to hang out with a guy who you've never even met before, and you went on a great summer retreat, and you two bought a little house in the Alps, and a dog, and you wore matching sweaters, and you laughed as you made each other hot cocoa, and you didn't have to do dumb YouTube videos anymore to pay the bills. Anyway, Spider-Man, so this demon woman says that all of the people that Parker met on this little weird dream walk are alternate reality versions of him. In one reality, he becomes a big fat nerd and plays video games and tries to replicate my YouTube audience as best as he can. In another reality, he doubles down on science and decides to be a giant billionaire to grind a big old I showed you into the face of everyone who made fun of him for being a dumb nerd. But Peter asks the real important questions, such as, in which of these iterations do I end up a little girl? Once again, channeling my YouTube audience. So the super hot fetish woman in red who's reading Peter's horoscopes turns out to be Mephisto, who's a Marvel demon who basically is kind of like mini Satan. He rules pocket hell. He fucks with people, and it's funny. So Mephisto says, hey, Spider-Man, I can save Aunt May. I can do it because I'm the fucking devil, and I can do whatever I want. And Parker, being a great husband or a pussy-whipped idiot, says, hey, I can't answer these things by myself. I've got a responsibility to someone else. And it turns out that someone else at that very moment is also talking to Mephisto. Mary Jane, you cheating slut. If you had a demonic fetish, we could have just played Doom Eternal together. But here you are talking to Mephisto. Mephisto says, I don't want your soul to save Aunt May's life, Peter. Soul, it doesn't really sustain me. People who go to hell giving me their soul suffer in glory. They know that they did it for the right cause. They know that they're a hero. But I like to dwell in misery and suffering and pain, and I like to make exchanges that hurt people, because it's great. It's yummy. So I want your love. I want your marriage, Spider-Man. Oh, fuck. So Peter says, hey, Mephisto, you can take my fisto into your anus. And Mary Jane says, well, hang on a minute. Hang on, Peter. Let's hear him out. So Mephisto says, here's what's going to happen. You have one more day. And tomorrow you have to tell me whether you're going to save Aunt May's life or your marriage, because one of them is gonna go. And what'll happen is after I claim your marriage, if you decide to go through with it, you won't remember anything up until this point. You will not, it's as if you won't have been together. You won't remember you made this bargain. You won't remember your life together. None of it. But part of your soul will remember. And that yummy, yummy suffering of your soul is what I'm going to snack on for the next trillennial years. Issue 4, Part 4 of 4. Enough said. Yeah, you're fucking telling me. So after all this, Spider-Man wakes up in the middle of the night, having slept in his costume, I guess They're his Spider-Man pajamas? God damn, they make him look ripped. I need a pair. And he notices that Mary Jane is crying in the bathroom. And Mary Jane is having a real hard, big old struggle with this. And her whole culmination of this almost mental breakdown is, look, Peter, what if Aunt May's time to die is now? I know. It's so horrible for me to say. This 97-year-old woman who's also shot and lived a full life, maybe it's her time to go. I'm gonna be sick suggesting this. No one else has said it, but I have to. Spider-Man's made these points that he's about to make a good handful of times throughout this whole story arc, but this time is when he really hammers it home. It's the fact that Aunt May's death is unnatural that he can't accept. If Aunt May died of a heart attack, or if she died of being old, or knowing her and her 102-year-old age, she sneezed too hard and her lungs popped out, he'd be like, alright, c'est la vie. But the fact that she was shot by a bullet meant for Spider-Man means that he just cannot let this go. She has to live. She has to live the next 2 years that she would have lived before she died of old age to die of old age, goddammit. You remember how one of the biggest mantras of Spider-Man, one of the things that kicks off the entire series, is how Spider-Man gets his Uncle Ben killed? Because in various forms of the origin story, he's either fucking around, or he doesn't stop a mugger, or he indirectly does something. And the idea is, with great power comes great responsibility. You know who doesn't remember that? Fucking Spider-Man! Because he's not accepting the responsibility that people will get hurt from his great power. Peter and MJ form a really off-brand Andy Warhol painting and start trying to reminisce about times they had throughout their marriage. And Mary Jane makes sure to reinstate that she remembers each and every detail of their goddamn marriage, and nothing will ever take it away from her. Not anything that a monster could do. So Mephisto shows up and goes, "Time's up, motherfuckers! The way this works is if you agree to this, your marriage never happened. It just wasn't a thing. You will have lived your life and you'll remember all your shit, but it's like you two never got married." You hear that? That's the sound of Aunt May dying. Bong. This motherfucker literally set up a giant grandfather clock to tick down until Aunt May actually died. I think Mephisto might be my favorite. So Mary Jane brings up a really good point. Now, there are a billion good points as to why even considering this deal is fucking stupid, but Mary Jane says that, hey, just because our marriage is gone, what's to stop Aunt May from being shot again? Everyone knows that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Our marriage has nothing to do with the fact that Aunt May got fucking blasted by a .45 caliber. And Mephisto's logic is because God loves your love. And if I take away your love, he's not really Spider-Man anymore. That's all it really takes for people to forget about him. What the fuck? So, upon hearing that, Mary Jane goes, "Yes, I agree to your stupid terms and obviously rigged and dumb fucking proposal." But she has a caveat. Mary Jane says, "Look, you're gonna take our marriage. That's fine, I don't care. Maybe I'm starting to not even love Spider-Man anymore. But you're not only gonna put his life back together, you're gonna put everything back to how it was. You're gonna fix his life to be happy. You're gonna give him a chance to be happy. What does this mean? Who knows? But remember, when dealing with the devil and monkey's paw style bargains, you never need to be specific. Just wildly say what you want. It'll work out great." And Mary Jane whispers in Mephisto's ear to explain why he should even do this. And I can't imagine what horrid stuff it is. Mary Jane is willing to throw away her entire marriage to the man that she loves to save an old fucking woman. Oh, God. Mary Jane's the true antagonist. So Mary Jane says, "Go ahead, Spider-Man. Go ahead. Just go ahead, Peter. Just be my hero. Be the hero. Save Aunt May's life. Dissolve our marriage." And Spider-Man goes, "Nah, do it." And Mephisto goes, "I'm pretty surprised. That's okay, done. Contract sealed. We're all good here, but I must admit I'm surprised with you guys. I can't believe it." And he mentions that there were a bunch of possibilities and he showed all those alternate timelines and those people that they talked to, and he's surprised that they didn't ask about somebody. And Peter, after the deal has been struck, Peter goes, "Oh my God, the little girl. Who was that little girl?" And Mephisto says that this is a possibility that I hid from you before you made this bargain. And the child, the little girl, is the daughter that Mary Jane and Peter will never have because their marriage was dissolved to save Aunt May's life. Oh, God. In the form of this girl, he says, "I would have been best for both of you, but now that you opted to save Aunt May, I will never be." Oh, get fucked, you idiots. Who would have guessed? Who could have seen this coming, that this was not in their favor? But Mary Jane tries to talk it all away by saying, "Peter, no matter what, in my heart of hearts, I love you, and nothing the demon will ever do will pull us apart." Yeah, tell that to our daughter, you fucking bitch. Oh, God. This is upsetting on every conceivable level. This is so out of character for these characters. This is such a bad rap. If you're a fan of Spider-Man, this is heartbreaking. If you're a fan of good writing, this is atrociously stupid. If you're a fan of comic books, this is the exact kind of dumb plot contrivance that gives them a bad name. This is terrible. Peter wakes up in a bed, different bed, no Spider-Man pajamas, just goes downstairs, mentions he's late, and someone says, "Good morning." Rather, "Good afternoon, Tiger." And it's Aunt May! Yay! Aunt May has another year and a half of life left until she gets a particularly bad cold and dies. So she's making flapjacks and Peter's giving her a big old kiss on her wrinkly fucking disgusting mummy flesh. Oh, fuck. I'm so glad that my daughter will never be born. I'm so elated that my marriage and the woman I love is gone out of my life because now these yummy, amazing flapjacks. What is this? What is your secret family recipe, Aunt May? Oh, is that fucking Mrs. Buttersworth? Pre-made pancake mix? And what do you add on top of it? Oh, Mrs. Butterworth's syrup? Well, they do sell them in the same aisle. That's genius. Oh, thank you very much, Aunt May. Mary who? Nah, more pancakes. Anyway, how's that Hodgkin's lymphoma you were talking about? And just to rub the fucking salt in the wound, just to really take a piss in the eye sockets of people who care about Spider-Man's character development, he does the cliche la 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 la, singing on my way, ha ha ha, I'm so happy thing. Oh, God. So to wrap it all up, Peter goes to a party for Harry Osborn, and they have a toast, and they toast to a brand new day, and he's eyeing Mary Jane, who's at the party, and can't, like, stop thinking about her. Who cares? What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't know who thought this was a good idea. Is there a chain of command at Marvel? I think at least 8 links of people on that chain need to be fired for this one. This is an embarrassment. This is the stupidest thing I've ever fucking read in a comic book. And this is official. This is canon. This is where the Spider-Man story went along. So remember, kids, the next time your grandmother or grandfather is dying in the hospital of being old, or anything, remember, maybe one day a demon will show up and ask if you want to completely and utterly remove the love of your life from your life to save them. And you better say yes, otherwise you're not as cool as Spider-Man. What the fuck is this?